So as a filmmaker and photographer who travels quite frequently across Australia to capture content for my corporate clients, I find myself traveling with all of my technology to do edits on the go. So I decided to buy this, the Apple Vision Pro, and in this video we're going to be talking about the things that I absolutely love about it, some of the stuff that I really dislike about it, and ultimately why, at the end of the day, I'm going to return this product. But before we talk about all that stuff, I just want to thank the current people who have subscribed to this channel. If I earn your like and a sub by providing you with some great information, then please consider like and subscribing. It'll help me get to 1,000 subscribers and essentially create a great community here on YouTube of image makers. So without further ado, let's talk about the Apple Vision Pro. So, the Apple Vision Pro, you've probably already seen the unboxings, you've probably already seen the first impressions, so this video is not going to waste your time by essentially talking about all the stuff that you already know. How I'm going to talk about this particular product is essentially from a perspective of a traveling filmmaker and photographer. And I think that there's a lot of good in this product, and honestly, it's one of those situations where I'm actually sad to be returning it, because I think that inherently this product is fantastic, but at the same time it is a first generation product that has a lot of different deal breakers for me, and I'm going to talk about that later in the video, that I really could not forgive at this particular price point. I really wanted to love it, I really wanted to keep it, but I keep running into the same problems every single time I use it, and it's ultimately a deal breaker. So first, let's talk about some of the great stuff about Apple Vision Pro that I genuinely love. Look, this is by far one of the coolest technology piece of tech that I have ever owned. The ability of these the Vision Pros to essentially 3D map your entire environment and place objects in the 3D environment, it is second to none. And I've been so impressed by the clarity of the UI. You know, one of the major features that I absolutely love to use on the Vision Pro is Mac Virtual Display. I'm no longer limited to 16 inches and I'm looking down, which makes my neck hurt. I have a bad neck. So being able to mirror that display into like a gigantic screen in front of me while keeping my head nice and straight is one of essentially the pinnacle reasons for why I ended up buying these things. What else do I love about it? I love genuinely that it is, despite what most people say, the weight of this particular product is not so bad, in my opinion. I think that the band, I think called the Solo Knit Band or whatever it is, the band, if used properly and placed properly in your head, it does the job. The first time that I used it, I thought it was heavy because I ended up having the band lower on my head, which meant that, physics, right? So all the weight ended up being on my cheekbone. So what I had to do was I had to take that band and essentially place it higher up on the back of my head, which really solved the weight issue, but only temporarily. A lot of people I've seen on videos have complained that their face started to hurt at like 1 hour, and it becomes too heavy for them after an hour. I didn't quite find that. My limit was around about 4.5 hours. Yeah, I've spent over 20 hours with the Vision Pro already on my face because I really wanted to stress test whether this product is going to solve some of the problems that I have or whether it wasn't. So it was about 4.5 hours for me in the Vision Pro with the Solo Knit Band and the top-ish on my head. And it was only at that 4.5 hour mark that really my face started to hurt. And it was like one of those throbbing pains. It's almost kind of when you have like headphones clamped too hard on the side of your head and you start feeling that heartbeat on the side of your head. It's one of those ones. And at 4.5 hours, it's not obviously, it's definitely better than an hour than most people have claimed that before their face started to hurt. But 4.5 hours is not long enough for me, especially if I'm editing for a long period of time to get some work done. 4.5 hours is just on that brink of, yeah, it's not long enough, but at the end of the day, I think the design and the wait for the first gen product, look, Apple needs to have something better for the next one, right? So this is as worse as Apple Vision is going to be, and everything from here, next generation, will become better. So wait, really not an issue for the short term, but long term, 4.5 hours, that's the kind of point that I would say they become really uncomfortable. What else do I love about it? I love that the Vision OS and the tap gestures are fantastic. I think that it is definitely the era of spatial computing. If, for example, that tech, is like broadened, and in Vision OS 2, it is kind of broadened by, like, your hands going over like this, or your hands turning over like that, and you have functions associated to those gestures. Look, there's so much stuff that could happen as the software matures. And finally, genuinely, I love the look of it. I think that to some people it looks a bit dorky or too futuristic because it's too new. But in my opinion, I think the design language of Apple Vision Pro is genuinely spectacular. With the glass front, the way that, like, the metal, the aluminum frame, the chassis just, kind of there's no straight edges really on the Apple Vision Pro, which is fantastic. So those are the things that I love about it. Now, what are some of the deal breakers? And this is probably these are the reasons for why I'm essentially going to be returning these very soon. Let's talk about the biggest deal breaker. The biggest deal breaker for me is the pass-through. Now, I know some people are going to mention, well, the pass-through is pretty good if you want to compare it to other VR AR headsets like the Quest 3. I've never tried the Quest 3, but people rave about the pass-through on that one. The problem I have with the pass-through of the Apple Vision Pro is, number one, Apple on their marketing material shows people a false impression that when you put these goggles on, you will see the world as you see the world. If you have 20/20 vision, look, I'm not expecting, I know that that's like a high standard, putting these goggles on through a camera, 20/20 vision. Look, I can forgive maybe 20-30% decrease from that, but these aren't even 30% decrease from 20/20 vision. This feels like going from 4K, watching a 4K video, to like 1080p or even 720p. That to me is the perception that I get from the pass-through. Now, I could forgive it, right? See, I'm finding a lot of reasons to try to keep it. I could forgive it if I'm able to navigate my other devices while I have this on. But the problem that I have is I cannot even read my Mac screen for the life of me. If you're looking through the Apple Vision Pro and you have you're in pass-through and you're looking directly at your freaking Mac or your iPhone or your Apple Watch, I cannot read jack. I have a notification on my iPhone. I'm doing this, trying to figure out whether I can read the notification, and I can't. So these are like, so I have to take the Apple Vision Pro off to read my notifications, which is stupid. And looking at the Mac, yes, you can have Mac Virtual Display, but suppose that I don't want to run Mac Virtual Display. I should be able to just read the text on my Mac, and I can't with these guys. And that was a huge deal breaker for me, because when I'm looking around, I could forgive that, it's not detailed. Like if I'm looking at, my office desk, or if I'm looking at, something outside, I wouldn't hate on it so much if I can kind of make out the detail. But the problem is that even I put it on while my dad was driving, and just to test out how far I could see with the pass-through, and I could not make out the sign that was like 50 to 100 meters down the road. I'm looking at it, I'm trying to, make out what the hell it's saying, and I can't. Even as it passes, I couldn't make it out, which is a huge problem. So really, that is the absolute deal breaker for me. If it were better, if it were even like 40% better, right? Even if the text on the screen for the Mac was a little bit fuzzy, but I can read it, even if, on iPhone, like seriously, I would have kept it. The problem really is I can't. The technology got in the way of me using it, and it really it made it harder for me to do stuff, which is an absolute deal breaker. The other thing, honestly, for me is that when you're looking through the pass-through, and it's another thing about the pass-through, when you move your head like this, like even a small amount, freaking motion blur kicks in. I don't know why. It's like I'm seeing like artifacting on anything that has a line when I'm moving my head, even like micro, like this, like even like just once, it will blur. And I don't understand why that's the case. And it makes it very difficult well, it exacerbates the difficulty of reading anything, because the moment you move your head, it kind of blurs, which is another kind of massive problem for me. The other one is, look, I'm gonna complain about it just because I know it's kind of like, yeah, but the choice of Apple putting the battery outside, like, and not have like even like a way for it to go here, I would say, I think that if you already have that dual band, right, the one that goes behind and over your head, that spreads like the weight enough around your head that they should have had like a smaller version of a battery just there. The gigantic battery is not, it's annoying, but it's not really a problem. Look, really, I'm not going to complain about it, but I wish they had like a more elegant solution for the battery. When I'm turning around, like I was on my desk, right? And I'm looking around at my Vision OS apps and my Mac virtual display. There were so many times where I would move my arm because I'm moving stuff in 3D space, that I would nick the battery that's hooked up to the charger and it would almost fly off the table. So for me, it's like, okay, I understand it's a first-gen product, but that's just a little gripe that kind of, again, hinders the experience for me rather than adds to it. Okay, so really those are my deal breakers, okay? There's a lot of good. There's a lot of freaking good that I absolutely loved about the Vision Pro. And if it weren't for the pass-through, I would have kept it. I wouldn't have minded spending the 6,000 Australian dollars to buy these things if only the pass-through were good and if only I can read stuff. That's not a virtual floating thing. The UI is great, the tracking is great, the experience in augmented reality is effing fantastic. The what do you call it? The cinema mode, the theater mode, everything around spatial is fantastic. Everything that the Vision OS promises when it comes to spatial computing is fantastic. It is literally, this failed me because I can't read anything outside. That's really it. Now, last point that I want to make is the where to from here. I know there are a lot of people who kind of did their review on Vision Pro, and they say the good stuff, they say the bad stuff, but what they fail to kind of talk about is where to from here. The first thing that I want to talk about here is that this is called the Apple Vision Pro. There is a Pro naming right there, which means Apple has released the Pro variant of the Apple Vision lineup, which means there has to be an Apple Vision, a lower consumer version that will essentially be Apple Vision or Apple Vision Pro, one that is cheaper and potentially better in some cases. That is an amazing prospect because as Apple designs and develops the future generations, it's kind of, I feel like what Apple tends to do is the newest product will always leapfrog, the previous product, that kind of stuff. So for me, having an Apple Vision come out and then Apple to develop Apple Vision Pro 2, the future Pro version has to leapfrog whatever the Apple Vision standard is going to do to sell itself, right? So what I mean by that is, let's say right now we have fantastic tracking, fantastic whatever, everything, but the pass-through sucks, okay? So let's say that in the future, Apple might release an Apple Vision that has better pass-through, but not as many tracking capabilities. Maybe it doesn't have something, right? But then on the Apple Vision Pro 2, they're gonna then leapfrog that technology and again, make pass-through even better, tracking double the, way better than the previous Pro variant. And then that's when I'm gonna jump in again. I think that the Pro variant, the fact that they released it, number one, is essentially for developers to get on board and to essentially pick this up and design and develop ways for people to use this product. Because at this current time, they're right, the reviewers are right. There's not a lot of, there's not a lot of apps. It's not even YouTube, for crying out loud. Like apart from Safari, which is great, there's no apps available for this one that most people use, which is a bit disappointing, but that's okay. It's first gen, and I'm sure in the future it's going to be fan-freaking-tastic. And then where else from here? I think that just the general spatial computing, honestly, is a point where I would say I can't wait for this type of product line to mature, because the fact that this first gen product can put a window, remember where that window is, even if I go to different parts of my house and essentially come back to it and it's still stuck there, locked on to the same place that I left it, is incredible. Okay, I can't stress that out enough. It is a fantastic piece of technology, and it's really a breakthrough kind of way of interacting with a different kind of computing environment. I loved every single part of the floating window, even the way that it cascades like a little shadow on the table because it knows there's a freaking table in front of you. All that stuff is already amazing, and I cannot wait for the future where that has to get even better. And I can't wait for that time that that becomes more of a norm. Now, a couple of kind of wish lists that I had, right? While I was using this, I was kind of thinking about what kind of features would be killer for something like this. First thing, imagine if you had your iPad on the desk, your iPhone on the desk, okay? You're in Vision Pro. You get a notification on your phone, you look at your phone, and like a notification floats above it. That would be sick. Like if you have an iPad that also gets a notification or something, and then like you look at your iPad, it floats above the iPad. That would be sick. And Apple already kind of knows what different objects are. There's a lot of videos out there that looks into object tracking for the Apple Vision Pro, and that tech already kind of exists. And so imagine in the future where you have Apple Intelligence on the Vision Pro, right? That would be sick. You have those kinds of functionality because in Vision OS 2, you can look at your palm like this, and like a little circle that's tracked on your hand will float, and you can tap it to bring up your home screen. So it is very doable for it to know where your devices are because have you tried Find My, right? Find My, you can literally walk around and find your device that way. It knows how far your device is. You look at your device, it floats whatever notification or whatever UI that is possible with an iPhone, and then you can freaking tap on it. That would be so cool. So, I mean, all that is like the future technology that I'm looking forward to seeing. But that would probably be years away. And for a $6,000 investment, it just doesn't cut it, unfortunately. I wish I could have taken this on a plane to watch videos, which is great. I wish I could have taken this to, hotels so that I can edit while I'm, sitting on the bed and have a gigantic screen in front of me. That would be great. But at $6,000, I need to be able to see my surroundings, read my surroundings, and just not feel like I'm confined behind a camera, a phone camera lens. And that's really the ultimate deal breaker for me. So that was a bit of a rant, yes, but I think there's a lot of good in this product. I am super excited and I'm super happy to have bought it to begin with, and to have tried it out for the last week and to really put it through its paces. I love this device. I love this technology. I cannot wait for the future gen to come. But for right now, this $6,000 device, Australian, yeah, it's definitely not worth it. So if you enjoyed that, I'd love for you to consider liking and subscribing to this channel. We talk about a lot of good stuff, and I'm trying to build a great community of image makers here on YouTube. And yeah, hit me down in the comments below if you have any questions about this particular device, and I will read every comment and answer every comment that you guys ask me down there. And until next time, keep making great images. I'll see you next time.